Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I'm here with my good friend Dan Wiseman. How you doing, Dan?
I'm not bad, mate. I'm not bad at all.
The positivity is warranted for once, Dan. We're here speaking the day after the 1-0 win against Arsenal at Villa Park for the first time in 22 years. Talk us through last night, Dan, because I'm sure Villa fans went through a whole range of emotions.
Yeah, well, it started for me. I watched the game at Vicarage Road before, and City did its bits by beating Watford 4-0, and we've been dealt a pretty good hand in terms of the results. They've been going our way recently. I thought when Bournemouth had their equaliser ruled out through VAR in the last minute, that's when I thought, right, okay, well, like things are really going our way here, and that carried on through until last night, and it was all on the Villa boys to do their job. And when we went in at half time leading, I thought we've all seen this movie a few times. Doesn't mean anything yet, but I know we managed to hold on until the end. And what a performance it was, mate.
I believe I'm correct in saying, tell me if I'm wrong, that Villa scored with their first opportunity that they had in the game as well, from a corner. And it's been memed a fair amount, the Tyrone Mings little thing with Aubameyang, which is great. But I think what a lot of people don't realise is that was actually the lead up to the goal. And I think Ty actually gets a flick onto the ball, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think he does.
Yeah, which is amazing. But I mean, I don't really know how to kind of talk about it, Dan, because for the past however many weeks, it's not necessarily been doom and gloom, but the Villa have been putting in probably 80% of what's required, and unsurprisingly not been getting what we feel we need, not necessarily deserve, out of these games. And for once, we've gone toe to toe with a side that has beat two of the world's best teams in the past week, and it's Trezeguet who scored as well. 3 goals in 3 games. This man is on fire.
Yeah, he's been superb, mate. Especially in these home games. I thought the one at Goodison, I thought it was far from his best performance, but you really got to credit what he's done in the last two games. And whilst his performances all round have not been the best, he gets the goal, and boy, does he work hard defensively. He puts an absolute grind, man, and that you really can't fault him for. I think the same probably can't be said of El Ghazi. Trez just works like an absolute Trojan out there, never stop running. And you've really got to give him credit, because he seems to be able to turn criticism into goals at the moment. And look, we've given him a fair share on this podcast. We gave it him after the Everton game. But no, in these last 2 home games, if we do stay up on the final day, then we owe a lot to that man.
He's definitely earning his money right now. And I mean, the strike as well, it's so vintage Trez really, being on the end of a cross at the back post. And to be honest, I think Martinez, he has to save that. It's right, it's right on his post. And I can't believe Trez actually managed to tuck it in, but it was such a good strike. And when it went in, I was just in absolute disbelief. I don't think I've still properly computed the fact that Aston Villa are currently sat in 17th and the ball is in our court, Dan.
Yeah, bro, it's mental. It's mental. Like, we spoke after the Man United game, talking about us, sort of readying ourselves for the Championship and preparing ourselves for what to come. I came on here and was saying after the Crystal Palace game, it'd be the greatest of all great escapes, and here we are, and suddenly it looks not only possible, potentially quite probable that we'll see Villa in the Premier League next season. Obviously, there's still a long way to go. There's no, just because we're sat here with 1 game to go doesn't mean we're going to be sat here when all is said and done on Sunday. But we've put ourselves in really good stead, and all I've been sort of wanting for and asking for on the podcast throughout all these weeks since the lockdown is that we just go into this last game on the final day with it in our hands, with the chance of survival lying very much in our remit. And here we are with that exact opportunity. I've got to give credit to Dean as well, because again, someone who I've criticised, and we both have on the podcast. But no, in these last games, especially, I was so impressed with how willing we were to try and pass it out from the back. and play through the thirds yesterday. I think especially against a side like Arsenal, we were really being squeezed. And I think literally just a few games ago, we would have resorted to long ball there. But I was so pleased with the way that Connor, Douglas and John were dropping out in the midfield into the defence to collect the ball, because I think that's where our problems have been in terms of not playing sort of expansive football that starts with the centre-backs, is that I don't think the midfield has necessarily had the confidence to drop out of the midfield, collect the ball from the centre-backs on the half turn and try and play through there. And I was so impressed with how they did that yesterday. I thought Connor had a great game. I thought it's the best we've seen of Jack and John in a one time. Jack was almost at the peak of his powers yesterday. And well, to be fair to these boys, when the heat goes on, they do come out of the kitchen, and they've done that again yesterday.
The defence was solid as well, I think, Dan. And I think it's important to note that, I know we mentioned it in the last podcast, but Ezri Konsa, since playing back in his natural position, has been so much better, and dare I say it, even better than Tyrone Mings. I think there was the opportunity in the first half where he kind of tries to flick it as he's running back, and the ball ends up just falling to Aubameyang, which Konsa is forced to deal with on the 6-yard mark. I think if that was Ezri Konsa of 3 months ago, then we're possibly looking at an Arsenal equaliser there. But and I think as well, with what you're saying in terms of the midfield, that I think they gained that confidence as well from the defence and how solid they've been. And I think for once we didn't actually see Ty play too many just stupid hoof balls after he's held onto the ball for too long or whatever. I've got to shout out Matt Targett as well, man, because on this podcast, I'm always the first to criticise players. When I feel it's necessary, and Matt Targett has been one of them players. And I've got to put my hands up and say Matt Targett was brilliant last night, as was Frederick Gilbert. And I mean, I don't know about you, Dan, but if you look at that performance, surely you've got to wonder how he's not been in the team for the past, I don't know how many games.
Bro, Fred Gilbert would slide tackle his nan, man. That geezer would go for absolutely anyone. I absolutely love him. I'm watching him yesterday. Wow, he's actually been really good for us this season. We were having a bit of a debate at the pub the other day when we were watching the last game, and we were sort of saying to each other, after Jack, who's been our most consistent player this season? Like, who's been our best player? And not only is that one actually quite a hard question to answer, and I was struggling to think of a name. I was like, Fred's actually had a really good season. I think, where considering we signed him into the Championship, we didn't really sign him thinking we'd be in the Premier League. He didn't sign for us thinking he'd be up to the challenge of the Premier League. The way he's risen to that, and how his work rate is absolutely tireless, and that there is a genuine Premier League player in there has really, I don't want to say surprised me, but how he's dealt with that, and how the club have dealt with that, and how he's as I said, sort of unwillingly stepped into the Premier League as pretty much a starting right back for a lot of the season has been great. And he complemented what was a fantastic defence yesterday. As you said, I do think Konsa is outperforming Mings right now. I think Mings is probably the weak link in that defence. I looked at that the very incident you talked about with Aubameyang there, and like as you said, no other defender was making those kind of mistakes last night. I also want to just shout out Pepe Reina, because I just think that he instills a quality and a confidence in the back line that, as I was saying on the last podcast, that just because of Oyan's age and the fact he is almost 40 years old, that he can't bring to the side. But no, the way he's just so able to come for crosses and collect things like that, and whereas there always is a little shakiness in Oyan when he tries to do that, really helped us out last night. I think there's a lot still to be wanted in the front line. I think that there's Jack did all he can, but I don't think that's we still have a bit of an issue at striker. But look, the midfield was exemplary last night. Same with the defence, and we shut out a really menacing Arsenal side who have beaten two top sides in the last two games.
I think what's important is, when we've been analysing these games before, and obviously we're wondering where the goals are coming from, and it's not really the strikers. A striker hasn't scored for Aston Villa since Bournemouth away. in the Premier League, which is probably February time, isn't it? And I know obviously we've had the 3-month break, but it's a shocking statistic. And when you're not scoring goals, you can't afford to be giving them away. And for once, even though our strikers weren't scoring goals, we were able to stay compact and resolute, and obviously get the goal in the form of Trezeguet, which is just, I mean, I can't describe how happy I am. I know Villa fans listening to this will know the feeling as well. And it's a shame that it was a late game. It'd have been nice if we'd have had a bit more time to have digested it and stuff. But no, I mean, the performance overall was great. And as you touched on, Dan, with the midfield, it was, for once, it seemed like a proper cohesive unit. And it was, I mean, Douglas Luiz, how many times on the podcast are we going to say how good this man was? He was absolutely insane. But, I think what, for me, kind of exemplified how good Villa's performance was really how good Jack Grealish was, Dan, because, we've kind of seen recently, it's not really been since November or December time where Jack's really carried the team. And I don't want to say he carried the team yesterday, because that would be very disrespectful to the other 10 men who were playing. But that run that he made in the second half to set up Keenan Davis was genuinely world class. And I've watched it on repeat so many times. And it reminded me of Rotherham away when we went down, and he ended up scoring that goal. And it's a shame that our boy Keenan couldn't finish that off. But when I watched that, I genuinely thought I was watching like Real Madrid play in the Champions League or something like that, because that, just the way he accelerated with the ball and laid that off to Keenan, it was just world class.
Yeah, mate, and that's what we haven't seen for so long, and I think that's why it's so good to see. A lot was made of Jack yesterday, and whether it was potentially his last game and all this sort of stuff. And he said himself he doesn't want to talk about that right now. No one knows what's going to happen. He can't comment on his future when the future of this football club hasn't been solidified yet. But no, that little run he did was just trademark, and it's so good to see because we haven't seen it in so long. And I think what's nice is that, and does give me a lot of confidence going into this final game, is that as the games have gone on, we've slowly seen Jack and John just sort of creep towards getting back to what they were like before. Not just when Jack before the lockdown, but with John obviously before the new year when he got injured, and we just haven't seen those two playing like that in so long, and it's so good to see because finally we're giving ourselves the chance to see what this side could have been like. If injuries hadn't been a problem, and we'd stayed playing at full capacity, and we're clearly a different side, and it's been long stated how important those two players are. But no, speaking on Jack specifically, Keenan did him dirty by not putting that chance away, because all that performance was needed was an assist, but Jack needs that assist more than most. It's 9-10 games now since he last came up with a goal contribution for us. He was saying that he doesn't think that he's been playing at his best since lockdown. I'm sure every Villa fan would agree. And he needs that goal contribution if he is going to be able to get his move, because he's been a long time without one now.
It has, and I think I saw from James Rushton on the Birmingham Live, he actually showed a graphic of, I believe it was the probability of Keenan actually scoring from that position, and it was 35%. Now, looking at it, I mean, I think by the time Martinez had dived, there was so much of the goal that was gaping. But I mean, I can't, as much as we love Keenan on the podcast, and anyone who's an avid listener or just knows me and Dan knows we're huge fans of Keenan Davis, is that he's always struggling to get the goals, and it's a shame. I think thankfully it didn't come back to haunt us, because I know after the game when we spoke, we said that thankfully it didn't, like the El Ghazi chance. But I think more for Keenan than anything, obviously, because we were able to see the game out. It'll be frustrating. I believe he's an Arsenal fan as well, so I'm sure he would have liked to have actually bagged there. But what a time for his first Premier League goal that would have been to pretty much drag Villa to safety. And I guess it would have proved all the people wrong who always give us hate for liking Keenan, Dan.
Yeah, it's one of those where Yeah, bro. I was gutted for him, man. And but what's nice to see, and I guess it would have been very different had we ended up, throwing that game away. But he put a tweet up after the game, just sort of congratulating him on the win, and the replies to it was so nice. No one was really. It was all sort of, keep going. That goal's coming. No one was really slating him for missing the chance. And as I said, I imagine if we'd gone on to draw 1-1. It would have been a different story. And I did sort of fear it. I was getting sort of El Ghazi against Everton flashbacks, man. And I was like, oh, God, please don't make us rue this chance. But no, it's a shame. And Keenan desperately does need that goal. He's played in all comps, 55 league games for us now with just 2 goals as the return. And that needs to be improved, man. And we'll be the first to say it. And, but he's getting there. And look, we can win every game 1-0 if we defend like we did yesterday. And the post came to our rescue. Like, don't get me wrong, we got lucky, and Pepe was very grateful in kissing the ball when it did. But no, look, man, like if we've had a lot of things go against us this season, and if Lady Luck wants to smile on us for this last 2 games, then I'm not going to say no.
Absolutely, and I think we perhaps spoke about this off air last time, Dan, but of all the January signings, none of them had really made that much of an impact. But I think, yesterday, as we kind of touched on Pepe Reina, what a signing that man was. And he's at times probably been a bit hit and miss, I'd say, not necessarily as assured as Tom Heaton was, but, he's come up clutch when it's mattered. And, I'd fear with that ball hitting off the inside of the post that it'd, bounce off Nyland's face or something like that, as much as we love Nyland on this podcast. But no, it's good to see that, the January signings actually made an impact, because if you look at West Ham, Souček signed in January, he scored 4 goals and, along with Antonio, pretty much dragged him to safety, and Jared Bowen has been fantastic. So it's, these signings, they do matter. And it's a shame that Sama goal and obviously Boya Baston and Danny Drinkwater haven't really featured that much, the latter 2. So it's good to see that Reina's had that much of an impact. And coming into this West Ham game, Dan, this is a preview that no Villa fan wants to do right now, because for once the ball is actually in our court, and it looks like, dare I say, I don't want to tempt fate, that, Villa can do it, Dan. They can do it, and that's what's important.
Yeah, man. Like we need Arsenal to bounce back and beat Watford. I think that's actually at the Emirates, which is nice, because Arsenal do struggle away from home. If it was at Vicarage Road, then it's a completely different box of frogs. But as I said, their home form is much better than away form. I think since the restart, that's Arsenal's 4th away loss in their last 6. So the fact it's going back to the Emirates, makes me quite confident that hopefully they can bounce back and beat Watford there. Hayden Mullins, that appointment is a weird one, and
really
so
weird.
Yeah, like, I do see Arsenal doing the business over at the Emirates, to be honest with you, mate. But look, we've just got to go to the Olympic Stadium and just play like we did yesterday, man. And like I have a good confidence in us to do so. I think our last 3 games have all been pretty positive, and overall I think the performance has actually been okay. Again, we seem to just I really liked how we keep pressing and we stay on the front foot now.
Yeah.
And I think Dean's noticed that, and I think in the second half we're so much better at keeping our foot on the gas and pushing for that second goal, which so nearly came. We probably should have had it in a number of chances. John's had a couple of good looks at goal. Obviously, Keenan's had that one. And whilst we still did do it for the last 15 minutes, I think John said it wasn't as good for the old ticker, and it certainly wasn't. Yeah. But no, like if we can go and play like that, West Ham are a really good side at the moment. And they looked good against Watford the other day, and so look. For West Ham, they'll just be wanting to finish as high up the table as possible to try and justify that they've had, they can scrape together something of a remotely respectable season. They'll just be wanting to try and get as many points and climb the table and just try and get as much prize money as possible. And so, this game, I don't really agree with all the Villa fans saying that, hopefully West Ham will be on the beach and all this sort of thing, because that that they've still got a lot of wrongs to put right, and they'll just want to keep this season as positive in their fans' minds as possible. And with a win at home on the final day, it's a good way to do that. But they're not as good as Everton. The table will tell you. They're certainly not as good as Arsenal. They're not even as good as Palace.
Yeah.
There are three sides that we've gotten good results against. So look, mate, I'm taking nothing for granted. I was pretty much assigned to the fact that we were a championship side 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I'm not allowing myself to be excited. But no, as I said, it not only looks probable, but certainly looks possible.
Yeah, I think for the first time, I think it was from the account of Villa Analytics, which is a great account that we've shouted out on the podcast a few times. That I think for the first time in like 3 months, it's more probable that Villa actually stay up than not, which is crazy. I didn't see the statistic. I just saw a tweet that was worded like that, which, if anything, is just great. And obviously, as you say, can't take these things for granted. West Ham have been. I say West Ham. Antonio has been scoring goals for fun, and the Villa boys will have to do a lot to keep him at bay. But I think what's important about this game is certainly game management. Obviously, we've played on the Tuesday. It's coming round on the Sunday, so Dean and the players from the Championship should be used to that kind of turnaround. But I think Dean, for once, and I know we've obviously given Dean credit, but for once he actually got his substitutions spot on at the times that he needed to. Obviously, his hand was forced with Elmo coming off and stuff like that. But I thought when he brought Marv on, Marv was great. Cleared it up when he needed to, and obviously Keenan came very close. So the substitutes definitely made an impact, and that I think will be the deciding factor in this game, because I think West Ham can. And have proved to be able to either blow teams away in recent weeks. Straight away. I know it was Norwich, I believe, wasn't it, where Antonio got his hat trick. But they've also shown that they can hold on to the end and grab a late goal. So it's going to be important that Dean manages this game correctly. And I'm not going to ask you for a score prediction, Dan, because that never goes well. But one thing I will say is in my FanSpec preview, for whatever reason, I've always been predicting a positive Villa result, being as optimistic as I am, as you know, on the podcast, as you guys in the comments have definitely let us know that we're rather optimistic. And for once, I actually predicted a draw. Now, if that's an omen, obviously we didn't draw. So maybe I should start predicting these obscure results, and maybe I'll predict we'll lose to West Ham in my next preview. But I don't know. I'm just looking for anything at the moment, Dan. Anything to kind of cling on to, and as you guys may have been aware, the quality of the podcast has been a bit different. I've been without my laptop. Thankfully, I'm on my girlfriend's laptop today, so hopefully you'll see our face. But I was watching the game on my phone yesterday, and I can't explain to you how nerve-wracking it was to watch that on such a small screen. But I'm feeling good. But I think I speak on behalf of all Villa fans, Dan. That come Sunday, are going to be a nervous wreck, and probably won't even be able to talk to each other or anything like that, just because we're going to be so stressed about the game. Thankfully, it's at a decent time, so hopefully, depending on the result, we can get a podcast out straight away. We may need some time to think about it, or potentially some time to celebrate. But it feels good talking about Villa with you again, Dan. It really does. There's such a good feel around the club, and I think that has only been reiterated with the overwhelming amount of tweets that the players were making, because I mentioned it on the last podcast as well. Dean had been saying that things have been good in the camp, and I kind of called bluff on that. I feel like it's hard for him to come out and say that we were so positive and we were so ready to avoid relegation, because you look at the form, and obviously form tells you one thing, performance tell you another. But I think that it was such a weight off the shoulders for the lads to see Matt Target tweet up the fucking Villa, John, Jed, everyone was on it, Nakamba, Douglas, and it was just really good to see, Dan.
Yeah, man. Look, I almost felt a little bit a couple of weeks ago. I think it was sort of the Wolves game. for me, where I was like coming on to do this, and I like, you almost felt a bit bad for coming on and talking, because, you know, you and I, we always try so hard to be positive, you know, even when we don't really believe it ourselves. You know, I'm a firm believer that, you know, you just got to try and keep this fan base as positive as possible. And, you know, we have an onus to try and do that. And, you know, there's points where I've come on this podcast and try and force myself to be positive, and I don't even really believe it myself. And I was coming on after the Wolves game, like, you know, is this really the right thing to do? Like, I don't want to be adding to the negativity. And so it's so nice to be able to come on here now and be like talking about this. And, you know, hopefully we've got another great season in the Premier League to look forward to. And the lads deserve bits, man. And like, you know, we've done a lot of criticising this year, and me especially, and you know, towards the management staff and the players. And I'll stand by everything that I said, you know, because I think when I have criticised them, I think they've deserved it.
Yeah.
And so, but now I think, you know, we're really seeing the benefit of the work they've done over lockdown. And I think, if, you know, a lot of people were saying that, you know, what we were going to really struggle coming back after lockdown because, you know, we don't have the fans in the ground. And look, yesterday Villa Park would have been rocking, man. And like, same with the Palace game. And I think the Wolves game is different. I think the Sheffield United game is different. And so, yeah, like lockdown and this sort of new era of football has definitely hindered us. But I don't think we stay up if we didn't have that period where we, you know, it's allowed clearly Dean to reassess. It's allowed the players to reassess it. You know, had those 2 Zoom calls a week. We've worked on set pieces. We've worked on our defence, and we're seeing the fruits of our labour now. And I think that the fact that we've tightened up the defence, and I think the fact that we've papered over the cracks that we can't score in open play with, just, you know, being able to really produce on set pieces, those 2 things that have potentially kept us up this season. And so, yeah, I just want to give a massive thumbs up to all the guys that have clearly worked so hard on that, all the players, all the management staff, and everything that they've done, because I think just those 2 changes and the amount that they've worked on that have given us this opportunity. And yeah, man, I'm going to be in a pub on Sunday, ready to either drown my sorrows or cheers a few to and celebrate the fact that Villa have another season in the best league in the world.
Absolutely, mate. As you said, best league in the world, and it feels so good to have the ball in our court and finally actually be able to have the faith in the players to deliver. Because if this was, you know, I mean, the ball was never in our court in the relegation season. But, you know, if on the last day, Joleon Lescott and Micah Richards and Jordan Ayew and everyone were given the opportunity to stay up, it just wouldn't have happened, and it would have been horrible. So, you know, whatever happens, you know, I feel like we've had a really good end to the season, and I think that's a good note to end the podcast on, Dan. Thank you very much for coming on, as always, and thank you guys for being patient with the podcast. Maybe you preferred not seeing our faces over the past 2 podcasts. Yeah, don't let us know in the comments. But, you know, hopefully you guys will see us again on Sunday, and, you know, we're going to try and keep, I think, because given the turnaround of the season and stuff and transfers, you guys are definitely going to be seeing a lot more of me and Dan, you know, throughout the period of no football, because, you know, I think it's just important that, you know, we keep putting out this kind of content down, because it seems like people are really enjoying it.
It'd be nice to do in person soon too, mate. If we can, I don't obviously if things. It'd be nice to try and meet up and do one.
Absolutely, I was thinking about that recently as well. So yeah, we'll have to. We'll have to do that. I think that would be great with you know, whatever happens with transfers as well. So, you know, keep an eye out for content, guys. You know, regardless of the division, me and Dan are still here doing what we do best. Hopefully, just doing what we do, really. If you guys enjoyed the podcast, let us know in the comments below. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Spotify, make sure you subscribe. And I believe if you review the podcast on Apple Podcasts, that is good. From what I've heard, I've been listening to quite a few podcasts. I mean, I listen to podcasts anyway, but from what I've gauged, if you review the podcast, that's good. So if you can do that, we would really appreciate that. And subscribe if you're listening on YouTube as well. The YouTube is, you know, it's been good that, you know, given the lockdown and stuff, it's really helped Dan and I just become more consistent, because we've not really got anything else to do. So it's nice to see the amount of you guys who are listening on YouTube. And obviously there's a lot of you who prefer to listen on Anchor and Spotify, and that's great. So, you know, just keep doing what you guys do. Subscribe for more, and up the Villa.